Most care businesses don't fail, they just get stuck. They reach a point where things stop moving forward, even though the owner is working harder and harder than ever. If that feels familiar to you, then this video is for you. In the early days of running a care business, everything feels like progress. You're setting things up, you're taking on new clients, you're solving problems as they come, and it's busy, it's intense, but it feels very productive. And often it feels exciting because you're just moving from one thing to another. Then a few months in or a few years in, something changes. You're still busy, often busier than before, but the pressure feels so much heavier. The same issues keep resurfacing. Decisions still come back to you. Growth slows and it starts to feel messy. And this is usually the point where people start thinking, why does this feel so hard now? Should I just pack up and sell? Today, I want to reframe that because in most cases, this stage isn't failure. It's a transition point.
One, two, three, four.
The thing is, it all starts with what's called the early growth illusion. This is the time in the early years of a care business where all that effort that you're putting in, it hides the inefficiency. You can move fast because you're close to everything. So you can fix problems immediately. You don't need meetings to make decisions because it's just you. And that works, at least for a while anyway. At this point, the business grows based on urgency, it grows based on goodwill, and it's based on your personal involvement. You are the engine, and the engine is fueled by your dream at this stage of the business. So you're still in that illusion. I remember going through this phase when my husband and I first set up. We had no funds, but we had bags of experience between us. So, of course, we basically did everything and set up the business from scratch ourselves. We set up the website, we did the accounts, the invoicing, payroll, did all the recruitment, did care assessments, we did care visits ourselves, we were writing care plans after being out in the field. We were working from home, not even an office. There was an intensity and there was a fast pace and the sense that things were constantly moving and progressing. It felt great. It was pressure, but it was fun as we moved from one problem to another with such ease and alacrity. And that really fueled us to just keep going. Because when everything runs through you, it feels efficient. But that's only because you're absorbing the cost. What works in year one is the same thing that often becomes the limiting factor for you in year three. I've found that there are three key reasons why most care businesses plateau. The first reason most care businesses plateau is people dependency. Now, I don't mean staffing shortages or trying to find cover. What I mean is that everything in the business depends on you. So the decisions, the escalations, the problem solving, the reassurance. And if you step away or you're sick or on holiday, things completely slow down or they might even stop. I'll tell you a story. This one time, my husband and I were driving on our way home after doing a long day. Now, this was a typical day for us at the time where we would start at 7 a.m. with care visits. We'd be going in and out of people's homes. In the meantime, we were answering phone calls that were coming through about all sorts of things, from referrals and inquiries to district nurses and physiotherapists, social workers and OT, to staff booking or canceling shifts, staff needing support or in their visits, all the way through to commissioners with urgent referrals. And we used to get lots of calls because we were in the middle of the COVID crisis. And at that time, the NHS was desperate to get people out of hospital and keep them away from COVID. And of course, we were there to help. That's what the business was about, right? So we would just about manage to have a lunch break, all whilst responding to emails. And we were back on the road again for tea time and bedtime visits. And bear in mind that we were covering a large area across most of the county, but we only had a handful of clients at the time. So you can imagine that we were doing quite a bit of driving around from one end of the county to the other. And we'd get back home so late at night, and we'd be up again at 5 a.m. next day to do it all over again. So, anyway, on this particular day, it's 10 o'clock at night on a dark, wintry, rainy night, and we're driving back home through the Chiltern Hills. Beautiful hills, but tiny country roads. Anyway, so we're discussing which care plans and risk assessments need to be updated before we get back home. And we're divvying up the work between us, who's going to do which one, and so on. But we were exhausted. It had been a heavy day, but we still needed to grind. And at exactly the same time, we broke down and we said exactly the same words. We can't do this anymore. We had both reached breaking point. So we vented our frustrations to each other and we picked ourselves up from the floor. And we agreed that we needed help. That was the point at which we said we need help. So we immediately started making calls to some of our network, and we managed to get connected to someone who helped us get stuff really quickly. And that released the time that we needed to actually manage the business. It was shocking how quickly the business grew after that point. That realization that growth had stopped because we were trying to do everything ourselves. Well, we were doing everything ourselves. So I can tell you that if you are the answer to the problems in your business, then growth will always be limited by you. That moment of realizing you need help, it's not a weakness, it's leadership. It's the moment that you bring the right help in that something shifts. In our case, growth didn't happen because we worked harder. It happened because we stopped doing everything, you know. The second reason businesses plateau is informal systems, or systems that only work because the founder is there. And I'll tell you this, systems are not about control. They're really about consistencies. One of the things that we were very good about from the outset is that we set up the business with a foundation that will allow growth. We had enough of a foresight for that. So we put systems in place from day one. For example, from day one, we used an electronic care record. And that's even though at the time, a lot of providers were still using paper. We just decided we were going to start paperless from the jump. And that was one of the best decisions that we made because we were able to just build on that system. And the system has grown with the business without needing to constantly chop and change. So when you look at all our other systems and processes that we have in place, like our process for recruitment and onboarding staff and our process for onboarding clients, they've stayed pretty much constant since we started. We've made a few tweaks here and there to improve things, to improve efficiency. But essentially, the whole structure of the systems, it's pretty much the same. And that's because we built the systems well from the outset. And it's allowed us to grow the business without having to constantly change things all the time or start from scratch all the time. So I can tell you that good systems don't slow growth, they actually protect it. So you need to make sure that your systems, you actually have systems within your business that can help you to grow your company. Now, the third reason that care businesses plateau is that leadership doesn't multiply. You have to accept that the skills that help you start a care business are not the same skills that help you to grow one. Different. In our care company, we are really hot on development. When we recruit, we're already thinking about development and growth of each individual that we're recruiting. And we spot leadership potential early on. So even during induction and training, we are deliberate about development, and we're deliberate about replacing ourselves piece by piece. So we're constantly thinking in that way. Now, this has enabled us to have sustainable growth rather than that constant firefighting. And the key takeaway from this is that if your business depends on you forever, it'll never grow. So if you're recognizing yourself in this, I want you to hear this clearly. You're not failing. This stage, it's not a warning sign of failure. It's an invitation to step back, to look honestly at how your business is operating, and to decide what needs to change. Obviously, not all at once. Don't change it all at once and don't change it overnight, but you do have to change it intentionally. So, if your business is feeling stuck and despite all the effort that you're putting in, you need to pause and you need to reassess. How else can I approach it? You might simply have just outgrown the way that your business is currently being run. And actually, that's a powerful place to be, especially if you make the choice to lead differently from this point onwards. So I hope you found that helpful. If you want more conversations like this, honest, reflective, and grounded in real experience, and if you want to grow your care business without burning yourself out, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.